Hi everyone, in this video I'll be talking about 6 ways by which we can loop through an array in JavaScript. So let's get started. So over here I have an array which I call days of the week, just we have from Sunday to Saturday, and we'll be taking a look at the different ways in which we can loop through the days of the week in JavaScript. So let's take a look at the first one. So let's say this is the first method. I'm just going to place this as a comment here. So the first method is actually the for of loop. So we actually have this. Okay, let me just write that. So we have this. We can say for. It's just like a regular for statement. So we can say for, and here we can say that let's, or I could use const instead. I can say const. Let's say day of days of the week. So I can say that const day of days of the week, and after I've done that, I can come over here and I can say console.log day. So if I should console.log day now, we can see over here when I save that, you can see that we have the entire days of the week being printed out in our console. So what's really going on here is that this is what we call the JavaScript for of loop. So this is the for loop, but it's not your regular for loop. It's using the for and it's using the of in between it. So what's going on here is that this is the array, which is our days of the week, and we're saying that it should loop through this array, and each of the elements in this array is then assigned to the variable day on each iteration. Simply means the first time it goes through the array, it sees an element or an item in that particular array, it picks it, assigns it to the variable, and that's actually what we are printing out here. It goes the second time, it sees Monday, it prints out Monday. It goes the third time, it sees Tuesday, and so on and so forth. So this is actually the first method. Now the second method that we have over here is actually one which is very, very popular, and that one is actually an array method. So there's an array method that is known as the for each array method. So we're going to say days of the week dot for each, and this is the array method over here. So you can see it has this particular bracket that makes it a method. So I'm going to assign a variable in here, and I'm going to be using an arrow function for that, of course. So I'm going to say the function I want to put here is, you can see I'm having my day over there as the variable. So I can come over here and say that console.log, and I can say day. So you can see that this is also being printed, but I'm just going to comment this out so that we don't get things mixed up. So I just commented this out now, and you can see that when we use the for each over here, we can actually print out each days of the week over to the console, or whichever way we need it. We can assign it to a variable, and each of them is actually being printed out to the console. So we have another one here. So the third way is we can actually loop through an array in JavaScript. This one is it's a bit different actually, because this one would actually loop through each of the keys of an array. So let's just see what that means. So this is the for in loop. So we're going to say I'm going to say const day. It looks very similar to that of the for of loop, but it's different because in the for of loop, instead of me to write this of over here, I'm going to write in this case. So I'm going to say for const day in, let's say days of the week, and I would come over here and I'm going to say console.log, and if I should say day now, and let me comment this, so I'm going to have this conflicting. If I should save this now, you can see that we have something a bit different, because this time around it is actually consoling out the key of the array, and the key of the array is actually similar to the array index. So all arrays starts with the element 0. So this is the element 0, which is the first element. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What's for in does to an array is that actually consoles out the array index. To make sense out of this, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say that it should console the days of the week, which is actually the array. Then I'm going to select a specific index number. So since the day is actually the index number in this case, I'm passing on the index number into this array so that it would pick the particular item in that particular index of the array and print it into the console. So when it is 0, it's going to pick the 0 index, which is Sunday, and it prints out into the console. When it is 1, it's going to pick the item with the index of 1 and print it out into the console. So let me save this now, and if I just save this, you can see we have our Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday down to Saturday over here. So this is how to use the for in to loop through a particular array in JavaScript. Let's make comment this and let's take a look at the next one. So the fourth method of looping through an array in JavaScript is just by using the for loop itself. So the regular for loop, I can just say for, and I could say const. I'm not going to use const in this case. I'm going to say let, because I will need to reassign this to increment it. So I'm going to say let 0, and then I would say that not let 0, rather, I'm going to say let x. This x is basically a variable in this case, and I can give that variable anything, just like I've been saying day. So I think let me go on with day anyways. So I'll say let day to be equal to 0. Day should be equal to 0, just like the day I printed out here was equal to 0 at some point in the iteration I did here, which actually picked the index. So let day equal to 0, and I'm going to say day is less than or equal to, day should be less than or equal to the days of the week. So I'm going to get the days of the week now. The days of the week are actually 7 in number, so I can't just say I want to write 7 here, because that'll be me cheating the system, because in most situations I wouldn't really know the length of the array. So in this particular case, I'm going to use an array property known as length. So I'm going to say should be less than or equal to the days of the week dot length. So dot length is actually an array property which returns the length of the array. So dot length in this case is going to return 7 to us, because we have 7 items in this particular array. So this is another way of writing it when it's less than or equal to 7. Now in this case, I don't even need it to be equal to 7, because day is equal to 0. So if we count from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, that's a 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If we should count 7, that's going to be 8 actually. So I'm going to say it shouldn't be equal to that. And when we come over here, I could say I'm going to then increment the day, and I would say day plus plus. So this is the regular for loop, right? So in this case now, I'm going to say console.log. If I console.log day in this case, it's going to be very similar to that of the for in, and it's just going to print out numbers for me. So I'm going to save this now, and we can see that we have number 1 to 6 over here. And if we should use the same technique we used for the for in method, we're going to say days. Let's say days of the week. Then we're going to get the index, and we'll pass in day over there. So now we can see that we have Sunday through Saturday being printed out in our console. So the next method I would like to talk about here is actually using the while loop. So the for loop, the while loop, these are actually normal ways of looping through things in JavaScript. So let's take a look at the next one. And now I'm going to say that yx is less than the days of the week dot length. This is just similar to the for loop, but we're just using the while loop in this case. The days of the week dot length, I want to do this. So what we're saying is that as long as x is less than the days of the week dot length, we should always print out something. We're going to do console.log, and in this case, we're console.log in x. So if I should do this now, I'm going to come over here, and I would say x plus plus in this case. Saving this, you can see we have 0 to 6 again, and after doing that, I can always come over here and say that I want this to be the days of the week, and I'm going to pass in x as the index of each iteration. So if I should save this now, you can see we have Sunday, Monday down to Saturday over here. So this is another method, and I think I should call this the fifth method over here. So this, and I'm going to comment this out as well. So the last method I want to show us on how we can actually loop an array. So that's the sixth method. This is going to be using the do while loop in this case. Do. So before I do that, I'm going to initialize my variable, just like I did for the while loop. I'm going to say x in this case. I can also use d for the variable if I wish, but I'm just using x in this case. So I'm going to say let x to be equal to 0 in this case. And what do I want to do? I want to print out the day of the week. So I'm going to say console.log, and I'll say day of the week. And in this case, I'm going to say x. So if I'm printing out the day of the week x here, remember that x is equal to 0. So by this is going to actually print out the day Sunday for me. But it should do this while, and this is how the do while loop actually works. So it should do this while what? While x is less than what? It's less than the day of the week dot length. So if I should save this over here, and I'm going to, oh, you can see I have an infinite loop over here. This kept on increasing, and this is because of I never added a condition for this to stop. So x is equal to 0, and that simply means that x would always be equal to 0. I'm not increasing x so that in order to make this condition false at some point, and that's what I'm going to do now. So over here, I'm going to say that x should keep on increasing itself on each iteration. And if I should save this now, so that loop actually got things messed up with my computer because it's an infinite loop. So I'm just going to open this again on my IDE, and I will need to close down some certain consoles. So I'll have to close this way, close this, and I have to open this on this console now. So let's see how that goes. Okay, great. So now we can see this being printed out. So this is just basically what we have here. So I know that this might look like this is not really it, but if I should say that this should be equal to 3, and let's see what happens there. So you can see that it starts from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and that's just how this works. So remember, whenever you're doing your do while loop, or whenever you're doing your any loop exactly, always try to increment it so that at a specific point in time, the condition is going to be false and the execution of that loop is going to stop. So remember to always do that, because I forgot to do that over here, and that's why things really got messed up with my browser, and the next code I wrote never got executed. So always remember to do that. And that's all for this particular looping through an array in JavaScript. So let's have a recap on this. We can say we have the for of, we have the for each, which is a JavaScript array method. We have the for in, we have the normal for loop, we have the while loop, and the do while loop as well. So that's all for now. If you like this video, remember to give it a thumbs up, and remember to click on the subscription button down below. See you in the next video.